Hello, duckies and dice fiends. Welcome in. It is the Cataclysm Presents Table Talk Show. I am Kay. I am one of your co-hosts. We are here with a special guest today to learn about something I'm really excited about. But first off, David, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I am trying to update the thing on the live space, and also, hi, I am David, and welcome to the Gilmore Presents the Chaotic Wholesome Show of Talking. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusion so that everybody can have a good time.
Thank you, Rex, for the resub. And yes, I am Cattail today, apparently. So hello, DC. Welcome in, everyone. So we want to talk very quickly. We actually don't have a whole lot. Oh, this week. Tuesday, we're here doing this. Thursday, we are doing Baldur's Gate, as well as on Friday. Might start a little late this Thursday. Talk to you about that later, David. But Baldur's Gate 3 continues on Thursday. On Saturday, please come by for Body and Soul. It will be the first episode of our guest GM Q running us through the old gods of Africa, moving through different times in America. It is an all-black cast and production crew, and I cannot wait to see what everyone gets up to. Welcome, Starless Solid. Thank you for hanging out. Yeah, I never know what day it is. I've been very confused all day. So that is the big stuff we have going on here. So without further delay, let us introduce you to Dennis, aka OkayestDM, which is an excellent screen name, if I may say so.
Thank you.
Who is in the final 26 hours, no pressure, of a Kickstarter campaign for SAGAS. I have already backed it. It looks incredible. So tell us about this system.
Well, I'm just going to read out an elevator pitch first. And
Excellent.
It's going to sound super robotic because I'm just reading a screen, but here we go. SAGAS, or Setting and Genre Agnostic System, is a universal, math-light TTRPG designed to help easily tell your story in any world. In only 15 minutes, you can teach yourself the rules, build a character, and start playing. Choose from over 100 features to create your player character, or use the guidelines for quickly making your own unique abilities. SAGAS also promotes helping allies over helping yourself. Using the smooth and fast combat rules, you can describe the epic team combos that take down the final boss. SAGAS uses a check-based roll-under resolution system. Your character features change the size of the die you roll, and your allies can help by giving you more dice to roll, improving your chances of getting the lowest possible number. And yes, we've got about 24 hours left of this Kickstarter, and it is right down to the wire for whether or not we're going to fund. It's very intense.
Yeah, absolutely no pressure. So you've said several things that I really like. And again, the reason I got excited and backed it. So one thing that's really cool, I love systems that use multiple dice, especially like growing the dice is so rewarding. It's one of the things Candace the Magnificent introduced me to. What's the name of the system, David?
Savage Worlds?
Thank you. Savage Worlds.
Boom,
and then I kind of got to carry that forward into, we did the Essence system for My Little Pony, which feels very similar. Essence is D20 as well as those, but I love that growing the dice mechanic. And the other thing I adore, and it's I got to play, it's on hiatus currently, but I was in a horror homebrew game that was in a system called Through the Breach, which was a board game first. And you used cards instead of dice to do checks. But one of the things I really liked about the system was there were teamwork mechanics built into certain classes. So one of the things, Hello Logar, welcome on in. one of the things I got to do was for initiative, I would flip my initiative before anyone else. And then people on my party could decide I'm going to flip my own or I'm going to go when that character goes.
Interesting. I do like the teamwork mechanics. Like I love, like I wrote one, all right?
Yes.
I love it when rules encourage the party to work together and tell the story together, because it is a collaborative storytelling experience. I have not played around a whole lot with initiative orders. Sagas has a very, very similar, you roll a check to see what your turn order is, just like D&D. There's a lot to be said about playing in that area as well, because turn orders, like, mechanically and strategically, a very, very important thing. I really don't care as much as I used to about, strategy and optimizing, and I'm going to get the best turn order possible because I want to do the best I possibly can, because failing is amazing, especially when you're telling a story together. And I will, if I have a choice, like personally in a story, whether my character is going to succeed or fail, and it's up like a 50-50 of whether or not it's going to happen, I'll choose fail every time, because I just think that's more interesting.
And David knows I swing wide between, sometimes I'm like, this combat is important, and I'm playing a character who's known for fighting, so I have to be very strategic and I have to be good at that. However, David knows I am also a very character-driven player, and I want the visual, I want the narrative. I will do a foolish move in combat to make someone else cooler. So I love systems that encourage you to like plug in and help each other and really figure out. Sometimes it's not even about what is the best optimal strategy, but it's more about what is visually the most fun. What makes this party feel like a team or a found family, right? What can you do?
And what's fun to
bring all this
describe?
together? Yes. So, yes, like I said, you've said a lot of things that really got me excited about the game. So anyone who watches the show knows that I'm posing a question, which is sometimes interesting. When you hear Rules Light, the first system everyone kind of thinks of is obviously powered by the apocalypse. How does Sagas compare, contrast? Give me that. Don't have to go super in depth, but.
So to preface this, I dove into game design, in my opinion, way too early. You can count the number of TTRPGs I've actually played on one hand. And it's embarrassing. I'm going to fix that this year. And Powered by the Apocalypse, I haven't played any of them. Like Thirsty Sword Lesbians, Kids on Bikes, Kids on Brooms, they're all really, really high on my to-play list. Mm-hmm. But I haven't actually played any of them. I have seen a couple of, I believe it was Kids on Bikes games. And one thing I stole from it, without having ever played the game, is I love that in that game, failing is the only way you can level up. And I did something very, very similar with Sagas, where it's not that you get to level up, it's that failing is the only way to regenerate effort. Failing and resting. And effort is like your short-term energy, you substitute for spell slots, stamina, mana, whatever. And so I really, really like the idea of having, like, there's no fully 100% feel bad rolls. Like, if you fail, then you are going to, get something out of it. And it's really, really fun. Sometimes when people try to power game Sagas, which is totally fine, but they don't have any effort left, they'll just try the hardest, most ridiculous checks in order to try to fail and get their effort back, and then they get upset when it works and they succeed. It's always a good time.
That is amazing. And I will say, and I feel like David will echo, I don't necessarily think it's bad to start designing games super early without having played a ton of things, because yeah, you probably had to go through a little bit of effort of like reinventing a couple wheels, but also you didn't have all of these other
preconceived
systems,
notions.
yeah, deciding what this is and what this isn't. When we started working on a project, we were working with Salty Queer, who is one of our mods and is just an incredible friend. And we were talking through some of the mechanics because she's designed a lot of games. And she's like, stop doing it D&D. And I'm like, but I can't. She's like, your stats don't have to be this. And I'm like, but I can't. And it was work for us to break out of that. So it is cool that it's nice to hear someone go, I wanted this, so I just built it, as opposed to I played a billion things and didn't like any of them, so I'm fixing it.
And
yeah, no, go ahead.
And like it's funny that you're like, oh well, I haven't played a lot of, because Kay and I both separately did the exact same thing, except from like the storytelling aspect of it. I built an entire homebrew world because I was like, I'm not going to learn all the Wizards of the Coast stuff. I'm not going to buy $400 worth of books and then sit down and read it. And then Kay was like, I'm concerned about not knowing all the lore, so I'm just going to build this thing from scratch. And it's interesting because you're free from the preconceived like restrictions of like tropes from like a storytelling perspective, and you're also free to like do the thing that also happens to like double up on what Wizards of the Coast has done or what other people have done. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that you didn't play a whole bunch of things before you went, you know what, I'm gonna like, and you know, there are people who like make board games and they're like, so I've played Monopoly, and then off they go.
Yeah, that's very much the path I took. I know that there was like, so the beginning of Sagas was during the is a part of what I like to call the OGL boom. It was conceived of during the crisis when our entire niche was in apocalypse mode for a whole month. And I was like, well, what if I don't play D&D? What other things could I do? And I started looking at the games and like, ooh, that's a cool concept. That's an awesome concept. I love to play in that setting. And I'm like, I don't want to learn all these rules. What if there was a game where I could just learn the rules once and then go and do all the cool stuff? And before looking for games that did that, because there are several, I just started designing my own. I dove headfirst into that bottomless pit and haven't looked back. But I very much, when I was designing, wanted to make sure that it was not D&D. So I made it like as different as possible. So there's no D20s in the entire game.
Wow.
There are no modifiers to your rolls. You just roll and immediately know whether you succeeded or failed. And the main mechanic for telling you whether you're good or bad at something is the size of the die you're rolling.
Very cool. Yeah, Tavernos says, not forcing D&D into every setting you want. What kind of heresy is this? And you know, I don't disagree, but I also feel that the same is true for Powered by the Apocalypse. And
Powered by
that's
the
all
Apocalypse
the
seems
rant
like a very, very fun and easy system to use. Like you said, rules light. Powered by the Apocalypse is one of the first games that'll pop into people's minds.
Yeah. I have some personal frustrations with it because I think Powered by the Apocalypse makes it difficult to succeed in a way that is not fun for me personally. But I do appreciate that. Oh, hey, welcome, Sir Heckalot. Good to see you. So yes, we talked about no D20s. I mean, that makes me a little sad because I have some cool D20s that I'm always looking for an excuse to use. But
you also have some cool D4s that you're very excited to
I have
use.
some really cool D4s I need to use.
Oh no, now I feel bad because there's no D4s in Sagas either. It's literally every other one.
All right, everybody break out your 18-sided die. You're going to need it for this.
I have a dice problem. I will be fine no matter what we're using.
It's okay. I have a similar dice problem.
Excellent.
We'll be good.
Let's see. All of these dice here are dice I have made and not finished.
On your list of things.
That's cool.
On my list that's far too long. So yes, tell us more about jumping into Sagas. What is it like? I say, cool. Kickstarter succeeded. I have my copy now. I'm going to run a game of Sagas for my friends. What do?
First, read the rules. It's super easy. It's literally, whereas D&D is 3 250-page books, Sagas is 50 pages. And you can use that book both as the player and as the GM to run anything. Mm-hmm. It is super, super easy to learn. Like I said, people take about 15 minutes on their own to figure out the rules and build a character. So, like, setting up streams to play Sagas has been super easy because I can just give them the rules and they do their thing. And it doesn't take them a long time, and they almost never have extra questions about it either. So it's very, very intuitive once you wrap your head around, like, the base mechanic.
Okay.
The first couple pages are mostly... the first page is a cheat sheet that you can just like have open so you know it's there. Love with all the super very easy everything the player needs to know on one page. We're thinking about condensing that down even further into cheat cards where you can cut up and pass around the table. The rest of the first couple pages is basically all the best GM advice that I've collected over the years. Everything that has worked at my tables and has worked at, I've been told that it's worked at other people's tables too. I basically put that in there and frame it around running Sagas. So that's the first couple pages, and then the basic rules fit within the next 7 pages after that. Everything else, so it's like 35, 40 pages is character options. There's some monsters at the end, but it's almost all building characters. There are no classes in Sagas. It is a mix and match, pick and choose what you can get. When you're building your character, you need 2 traits, which are essentially racial features. It can be anything from, particularly good vision or hearing or smell, or it can be like you're made of metal or you're made of wood or you have rough skin, and you get bonuses from all of these things. There are also, the next thing you have to do after that is you have to pick 2 struggles. And this is exactly the opposite. It is static things about your character that don't change as you level up, and there are drawbacks. And this is where a lot of especially the role-playing oriented players, really dive into their character. Because there's not a ton of games out there that have this sort of, mechanical drawbacks that you could to choose from and tie into your character at the same time. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying it doesn't exist in most games.
Right.
So there's ones like impulsive theft, where you have to roll a check to not steal something that's just out in the open. There is anarchist, where you have to roll a check to interact with figure of authority without and like actually obey them. There is Chatterbox, which is one where I see people go, ooh, look, I can just play myself. So everything, all of these are like static things about your character that you can't change, unless, there is a caveat. There's a way to remove your struggle, and that's really, really fun to like tie into your character development and your story. Is like getting over something that you're bad at, or like, developing to be better. So once you've got your traits and your struggles, you get 3 talents. And these are the like class abilities, essentially, that level up with you. You get to spend rank points in them, sort of like a skill tree in a video game. where you get to mix and match all sorts of different things to build exactly what you want. Like you could have bodybuilder and control fire, and you could also have tough, and those could be your top 3. There's also, investigator and pilot, all sorts of different skills to fit across any genre that you can play in. Then you get 2 pieces of equipment, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Then you're done. That's it. You just pick 2 traits, 2 struggles, 3 talents, and 2 pieces of equipment, and you're done. You have a level 1 character.
This is one of the advantages of not going super deep into playing a whole bunch of things before you make something that works for you. Because Kay and I have spoken on the show a lot about how different systems have different advantages, and different systems give you things that you want, or don't give you things that you want. And the whole concept of like the struggle system is similar to something that a friend of mine homebrewed in a game years and years and years and years ago. God, like,
first thing I thought of as he was telling that, I'm like, David's got this story to back pocket.
Right. And like in our he was like, okay, we're playing D&D, but put some sort of like character flaw in, something compulsory, and I'll give you a thing. And so we had a Kender that pickpocketed any and everyone, and that led us into a bunch of zany adventures, including breaking somebody out of jail. But also, we had a wizard.
Classic.
Who was an alcoholic. And so it was, so like we'd show up to a tavern because it's D&D, there's going to be a tavern. And then he would have to roll to not drink. He would fail that roll, and then he would roll to get drunker, and then he would have to roll to cast one of the spells he has saved. Well, we were gearing up for a fight, and so he loaded up all fireball in like his 3rd level slots. And so over the course of like 3 different towns that we went to, he would go directly to the tavern, get immediately hammered, cast like dancing lights and color spray, and then a fireball in the tavern, to the point whereby when we showed up to the 4th town, they're like, you can't come in here. And they're like, why not? It's like, because that guy right there, he burns down every tavern in every town. You're not allowed in here.
Consequences. I love it.
And just like, in addition to the fact that it totally derailed what our main quest was, because it was like clearing his name, breaking the Kender out of prison because he got caught pickpocketing the mayor of another town, because we went to the mayor to get a quest, and he was like, by the way, what you holding? Like, let me get in there. And so like we just never made it to the thing that he had planned for us, because these things created all these like just and all these years later, if you ask me what the original like thing was we were doing, I have no idea. But what I remember is fighting the level 6 guard, like being like level 2, fighting the level 6 town guard guy that was sleeping it off in the drunk tank, and they didn't have like a proper like prison or anything, and so they stuck him in there. They stuck the Kender in there with the dude, and then of course he gets locked up for pickpocketing, sees a guy sleeping, immediately tries to pickpocket him, immediately fails, and so we're breaking in, trying to get to him before this level 6 guard beats him to paste with his fists. And then also like all the taverns, like, and so like, you know, there's this I don't want to say debate, but like there are these different conceptions of like how people play, of like you want to go into the dungeon and you want to grind the dungeon and kill all the things and then get the thing, and then there's like I want to build an interesting character, and we talk about a lot on the show, but I really don't think that people talk enough about how building interesting characters and having interesting like backstories and behaviors and everything leads to interesting things happening in the game. And so I think it's really awesome that like you built this whole system and we're like, okay, this like embracing failure in a way that D&D can't. Embracing failure or just like embracing like negative qualities in a way that D&D can't, and in a way that a lot of systems can't. Is this really like interesting approach to it that, again, someone like K or I, where we've like, you know, played, but we would have a harder time with that.
So first off, Tav, thank you for the Prime subscription. And Tav says, I barely had to do any atonal searching the rule GM panic while running this. Candace says, yes, the negative qualities sound like Savage Worlds. And we were talking about you and Savage Worlds earlier, Candace, and we absolutely love it. It does indeed make for fantastic RP. And yet Tav says it's like Grups without the headaches. Yeah, I love, David knows, so I have gone on, I think, for an entire episode on here. I love playing edgelords, edge ladies, edge monarchs, right? Just those, it brings me joy, but you can't play an edgelord or an edge monarch the way they're shown in popular media because it's not fun at a table. So I'm
it can be, but that group that thinks that's fun they are very rare. Very rare people to find.
And I've done multiple talks on how I approach it. And my approach, I actually play the biggest edge monarch of all in the Emergency Power podcast. And I am constantly like, they're very high strung. They're very shitty. They're always lying. Like they're and I constantly set them up to take hilarious losses. Right? Because I'm like, if they're going to have an ego this big, they have to take the hit. And it is so much fun because they frustrate the party, right? And the party is even down with it. Like the crew is great. But Richard in particular, and Richard plays an in our 5e who is a robot, not even an android, straight up robot who's gained sentience, who is very just straight-laced. And the look of pure joy on Richard's face when he realizes that I am setting Soul up to take the L, and just watching him scheme like, how's my robot going to get in on this? And it's always like in our 5e always delivers the last zinger, the one that stings most, because he's such a straight-laced robot, right? And he's got to wait for everyone else to catch. It is so much fun to give your characters negative qualities. And it is so much fun to have a system that will reward you for doing that. Starless Solace said, I wish more systems let me come up with backstory traits that influence my stats. Heckalot says, edgelord characters, when not done mockingly, almost always exude main character derogatory vibes. Yes, absolutely. And that's why, like, so one of my edgelords that I love playing, like, is the really cool. I'm not really that interested in you. Right. And so the party will say something nice and they'll be like, and they'll walk away and they'll go behind the tree. And then once no one's watching, it's like, oh, okay, they like me. Okay. So like, even though the characters themselves don't know it, the party and the players are like, oh, there's something interesting here. I got to go poke at that. Right. That's how you make that kind of character work. Because you got to show there's something in there other than cool, because cool is really cool for about 2 episodes. Then it's like, what else you got?
Yep.
Yeah.
What else you got?
No, like, you got to look at one thing I've been trying to do a lot recently with when I run games is make the actual story as good as I possibly can. And this is difficult. Like, if I was writing a novel, I feel like it'd be easier, but I'm writing a novel with no control whatsoever over any of the main characters. So I want, like, I've been looking at, you know, what do the players like? What are their favorite stories? Why are those stories their favorite stories, characters? Why are they the favorite? And try to figure out a way to work that that plot point, that story style, that type of character development into whatever story I'm telling. It's hard. It's very difficult, but it's so rewarding when it's done well. 100% worth it. Interesting, and I love it when the players come up with like these interesting characters, especially when they are ready to have those characters change as a result of the events of the story. That, I think, is like that's the next level play that we're all dying to have.
And it does take work, and it takes, I don't want to say a trusting or a good GM, because yes, both, it takes communication. So I brought, when I joined the Emergency Power Podcast in their 3rd season. So I joined at the start of the 3rd. So they'd already had 2 seasons without me. And I basically came in and told my GM, I want to bring in this character. And I gave him the rundown, and I'm like, I want to bring in this character at the lowest point in their life. Like, they are coasting at their rock bottom. And again, could have been a very disruptive character, but I came in, I'm like, here's all the guardrails I have. And my GM was also like, I see what you're doing and I'm cool with it. And that took a lot of trust from a GM to do that and risk my torpedoing everything they built in 2 seasons. But it also takes work from a player, because again, how many, anyone who has not been at a table with someone who's not, I'm not even just talking about it's what my character would do. I'm also talking about, well, this character, like, you all need to convince them to stay with the party. Or this character's going to go do their own thing. And like, so again, David and I have said this a couple times, but everyone talks about like the Matt Mercer effect. And it's like, cool, yes, if you want a Matt Mercer GM, are you taking notes and making conspiracy boards like Marisha Ray? Are you role-playing your heart out and crying on scene like Liam O'Brien? Like, I'm not saying you have to be any of those, but you as the player also have to bring some stuff. And when you as the player are bringing, and the GM is bringing and trusting, ooh, it makes magic happen.
I have switched my style. Like, when I started running games a decade-ish ago, I didn't know what I was doing. None of us know what we're doing when we start out. But back then I was like, I ran, I also like immediately dove into a homebrew world. I'm like, okay, I ran 1 module. Okay, I want to write my own stuff now so that I know it better, because writing the stuff is more fun than reading it. But that's another conversation. And oh no, my train of thought is just gone.
It happens.
It happens
coming
to
together
me every
GM
every
and players
Tuesday.
Bringing stuff together.
Yes. So now I have, after becoming a content creator and, you know, becoming an adult, time constraints became a thing. And I used to love sitting there for hours planning out, you know, the next session, what's going to happen next week. And now it's what's going to happen next month. But, you know, so I could take the time to do all that planning, but that's time out of my day. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to try something new. And that's what my whole YouTube channel is about. I try something new and see if it works. I don't just take people's word for it. I try it and see if it works on my own table. And what I did is I wanted to get better at doing improv. And so what I did is I went on, you know, a couple different, you know, Discord servers where they were running games, and I said, okay, I'll run a game for just some people in the server that want to play D&D. And I did no prep, none. The only prep I allowed myself was looking at the character sheets 10 minutes beforehand. And it led into some of the most insane games I've ever seen. I threw a Tarrasque at a level 4 party. The second half of the session took place inside that Tarrasque.
Oh, Mario and Luigi's
just the craziest stuff started happening. And one of the things that I lost when I started like going into 100% improv was that player communication and that ability to set up something with someone in the party. about, this is coming, this is going to happen at some point. We're going to work together and feel it out as, the story progresses and find the best time to drop this bomb. And so I have very much like taken it back a couple steps and like, okay, I'm doing some prep now. But I agree. Player GM, DM communication is very important, especially for good storytelling. But when the rules are easy, sorry to wrench the conversation back to match the title of the stream.
What we are here to do.
Sagas does make, this very easy. And though that bit about communication is in there in those first couple pages for, just general game running advice. But since the rules are so easy, it gives you more time to focus on the story and setting up those payoffs.
And I know, was it Starless that was saying earlier? Yeah, Starless was saying earlier. I am generally a person who creates a character. Like, I have a character spring into my mind, and then I'm like, okay, how do I fit this into your game world? And I have played this. I've played Burton across, I think, 3 systems. Like, it's fine. I will adapt it, but I've definitely had them come out incredibly different. Like, the Burton that I played in Through the Breach was very different from the Burton in 5e because the way the Through the Breach character creation rules worked, I couldn't make them kind of the bulky person and also a magic user. Like, it just was incompatible. So they had to be like kind of thin, which is fine, made it work. But it's really cool that I spent a lot of time talking to people who are trying to come up with D&D like, or I want to alter the D&D, especially the character creation, where there's so much tied to species. And I'm like, just let people pick. And they're like, well, then they'll pick only the best things. And I'm like, cool, if that's what they want.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to have, like, I have a T-Fork and people are like, oh, I'll bet you have da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no, I don't have Hellish Rebuke at all because that doesn't fit the character. And if someone just really wants to min-max, okay, I guess. So I really like your character creation system. And then the fact that you also pick drawbacks, because I do feel like that is a thing that D&D and even Pathfinder doesn't really have. And being able to have those quirks, those drawbacks, those things that you as a character have to struggle against can be really rewarding.
It is every time. And like every time, and most of the time when I watch someone building a character in Sagas for like a game I'm going to run or a game I'm playing with them in, they base their character around those drawbacks. Like, that is what they use for the inspiration. And you can take inspiration from like anything. Like I said, this is a mix and match thing, and there are literally hundreds of these in the book, and you can just pick one and say, okay, that's my building block, that's my cornerstone right there. And you can like orient everything around that, whether that is the fact that you're made of wood, or the fact that you hate authority, or something like that. And you can do all of the bonuses, all of the drawbacks, begin planning out maybe a character progression, because it's at the point, if you have like half an hour to create a character in Sagas, you're going to be bored for 20 minutes.
Yeah, David knows I love playing either low intelligence, high wisdom, or low intelligence, low wisdom characters in D&D Pathfinder, because they are very, very fun. But being able to make that not just a stat thing that's hold it back, but a story element, right? Like, and if, I don't know how much you've watched of, and I know the internet doesn't like it when I mention this, but Critical Role, they brought on a guest character who was a Fearbolg, who was very low wisdom, but she also needed to like be a little bit of a leader. And so Matt Mercer worked with her so that she had a smell bag. And when she had to like make a decision, she'd just stick her nose in the smell bag and take a whiff. And that would help her decide what was the right decision to make.
I love that. It's
wow.
They did the same thing with Matt had a character that did this too. And I don't remember what story it was. It was like a dwarf sorcerer with very
that
low
was it.
wisdom.
Exandria Unlimited.
Yes.
With
And
the
he says,
jamming.
okay, we're going to play a game. And he goes to a crossroads, and everyone thinks he's going to like cast this spell, this really cool thing. He takes like some object that he's been carrying around with him this whole time, puts it in the middle of the road and spins it. Okay, we're going that way. And he just starts walking. And I love like little character quirks like that are really, really fun when they are, invented by the player or the player and the GM together. But when there's a mechanic that is a result of that little quirk, that it's just, I was at a panel, for character creation at PAX Unplugged. And I believe it was M from Blackwater D&D who said it best. You have to make your story and your mechanics kiss each other.
Yes.
Make them kiss each other. Make them make out. Do that as much as possible, and you will have a better time.
That is how I ended up. My Starfinder character, I wanted a character of dichotomies. I wanted a character who liked people but kept them at a distance, kept them in orbit. They were going to be a technomancer, and then I found the Solarian class, and you alternate between photon and graviton, light and dark. It's all about gravity, sun, and I'm like, this is it. This is the character. I'm also, because Tav is here, I played in a Girl by Moonlight game he GM'd, where my character was basically, my character was a magical girl, a magical Dembo, who was the familiar to the house that was our base that made everything happen. And they'd just literally be like, what do you think? Just ask the shop. And everyone
Amazing.
is like, is Kinley the familiar? I'm like, yeah, basically. Backing up just a little bit, Leaked Prism in chat said session X or your first session can totally be improv, but session X+1 or X+2 has to be planned with what came up in session X. So you can always do a bottle episode. You can always do some fun breakouts, but there is nothing more rewarding than tying back into what players have thrown out and weaving that forward. So
I used to run games like every single episode was a one shot, and it took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out that there was a better way to do this.
Well, and I think too, because I'm making an assumption about age, but for a lot of us, we grew up with television being incredibly episodic. Like those of us who grew up with TV before The Sopranos. I remember I'm gonna date myself, y'all. I worked at a Blockbuster. And I remember just being like, why would people watch these TV shows? Nothing ever changes. Why do we have box sets of these TV shows that go on for 8 seasons and they're still in the same situation in season 8 as they were in season 1? It's not interesting. You should watch a movie because a story actually happens within an hour and a half. Now, we are in a golden era of TV. Well, we're getting out of the gold.
Yeah, we're moving out now. But
we're moving out now. But we had, Star Trek. Okay, yes. There were definitely some exceptions.
But it was an era of relentless sitcom. Because for every sitcom that we remember, whether we personally think that it is beloved or not, there are 10 that we don't remember that were definitely running. Because you could syndicate those shows, and so you could run reruns on Saturday afternoons or on weird cable channels, and no one would care because every time they sat down to watch, it would be the same thing. Three's Company, Who's the Boss, Step by Step, Happy Days, etc. For most of those shows, you watch something in the middle of season 1 and something in the middle of season 5, and it doesn't matter what happened in the other episodes because it's just
it's the same. It's all exactly the same.
And the single best example of that is The Simpsons. The Simpsons has been running for decades. I've played video games with people who don't remember early Simpsons. They weren't alive. They weren't here when like the planes hit the towers, and they weren't here when Bart Simpson used to say "cowabunga" or eat my shorts. Yeah. But so something's been hooked in my head. Would you say made of wood? Do you mean like a leshy, like something that is like living in, or are you talking like animated doll like Pinocchio? Because, and this is important because as a DM, I have to know which so I can know how to terrorize them best.
The cool thing with Sagas is you could have a Leshy and Pinocchio in the same party, and they would be wildly different characters or exactly the same. There's so much leeway. Like the actual mechanics are worded pretty vaguely on purpose, because one of my favorite things to do with this system, I've done this a couple times now, is we will run through a game, and throughout that one session, we will switch worlds several times. The mechanics stay exactly the same every single time. The only thing the player and GM has to do is describe the new world and describe what their new character looks like in that world. If they change. It might be like, you know, this guy in Mad Max wear shows up in Blue's Clues for no reason. And like that could be its own bit, but it would also be really, really cool to see, you know, Mad Max himself suddenly is wearing a green polo. Like, and it's caused some very, very fun chaos, but it's the same characters going through all of these worlds, experiencing all of these things, and they continue to develop from these experiences.
Amazing. So it's actually talking about different shows inspired people. It actually, to me, feels a little bit like early Doctor Who episodes with the first couple episodes that had Jack Harkness, where the Doctor and all the companions were saying the same, but Jack Harkness was changing his clothing to adapt to the time. And so even when parties don't completely change, like if everyone stays the same but one person changes, in a way that's even more interesting.
Well, why? What's going on here?
Exactly.
I mean, I immediately want to know.
So, yes. You mentioned it's like 50 pages. Most of it's character creation. There's GM tips. There's some monsters. What else is in the book? And or what else is coming? What else can you expect?
So that's pretty much the book. We've got some, well, there's also like gorgeous art. You can see it on the Kickstarter page, a couple of the finished pieces. But Rook Zero is our artist, and he's just fantastic. So he'll be doing a bunch of the interior art, and the layout design is also, you can see a preview of that on the Kickstarter, is also amazing. I'm in love. I'm biased, but I'm in love. And so those will be in the book. And as part of this Kickstarter, when we fund, there will also be 5 mini supplements that come out after the core rulebook does. And these are going to be like 5 to 10 pages. There's going to be 3 settings and 2 adventures. All of them have been played. Most of them played multiple times. The settings are Grimm, which is a steampunk Victorian mouse-sized setting where there's, you know, high society inside the walls of this old bookshop in a small town, and outside there is a gang war between bees and wasps.
Amazing.
So there's that one, and that it's think Redwall or The Great Mouse Detective, but darker.
I'm like, this feels very Mouse Guard, and I'm so into it.
Yeah. There is Pulse, which is actually the first playtest we did live was set in this one. It is space fantasy exploration, where, you know, there's a pulse from outer space 50 or so years ago that mutated, you know, powers and different forms into the human race. So pretty much everyone has some sort of superpower or mutation. and now they are going out to explore, either find new planets, do business, colonize, or hopefully colonize in a nice way, depending on how the story goes, how First Contact might end up. Or, discover the origin of, like, what was this signal? Why are we changing? So that one was really fun. Then the third setting is... Oh, shoot. What is the third setting?
Chat is absolutely in love. They're like the rescuers, like the group.
Yeah.
They're like, yes.
Yeah, and I think this one has been the most played so far and the most thought out. It's definitely going to be the first one that comes out after the core rulebook. There's a couple adventures.
Pulse has me excited because David knows I'm a big X-Men fan, but I'm in like that Star Wars fan era of like I'm mad about things and I want to fix it. I want to tell an X-Men story that like fits and works. And obviously it can't be X-Men, but it can be, generic mutants. And I'm like, ooh, that Pulse could be a nice starting point for this story that's been in my head for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, continue.
I like it. I'm scrolling through my own Kickstarter real quick because it's here. Bearers, that's the other one. So Bearers is a high fantasy setting, which was our actual first one, if I wrote the truth on this page. It was a one-shot, and the premise of that is it's, just classic high fantasy. We all know what it looks like. But magic, the source of magic in this world are from these, like, obelisks, these black stone obelisks, very 2001 Space Odyssey kind of thing, where they just appear, and no one knows why, no one knows what they are. But we can do magic with them. So we start breaking chunks off and taking those chunks with us. But if you can do magic, holding those pieces of rock or being too close to them hurts you. And because of that, these magic wielders have hired bearers, people to wield these rocks as weapons or just to carry them around in a backpack for the magic user. That was really, really fun to play around with. World building wise, like what kind of society would this build? Like this city worships bearers, this one worships magic users. What's the difference between the two? How does it look when you actually go there? So I'm also very excited to explore that setting a little bit.
That sounds a little unbearable.
Yep.
How did Kate get fired?
I saw
from the
David
show?
smile, and I knew someone put something in chat.
I will never pass
that
up.
Was a pure K. That was pure K.
Oh, credit to you then.
But also, I will never pass up an opportunity to slander Scott Summers. But that is neither here nor there.
Yes, and Scott Summers absolutely has cop energy. Are you kidding?
The two adventures, one of them is Aquaborg, which is based entirely off of one of Rook Zero's, our artist's, pieces, just one of his character arts. And I'm like, this is super cool and interesting, and I want to know more about this character. Let's make him an NPC and build an adventure about him. And so I did that live on stream, and it ended up being a sci-fi underwater sort of cyberpunky, where it's military evil corporations, and spoilers about the adventure, but you find out more and more about the Aquaborg as the adventure goes on, and the Aquaborg develops as a character in its own right. So that'll be another fun one to write. But probably my favorite one out of everything I've said so far is the Garlax Chronicle. And it's my favorite because it's the nearest and dearest to my heart. It's an adventure. It's my first adventure that I ever wrote on my own. And this happened years ago. And I wrote a cosmic horror D&D adventure. And I've played it several times with several different groups of people. You can see it. I've played it now once through Sagas, once through D&D. Both were streamed or recorded, and you can find those both on my YouTube channel. But it is when we moved it to Sagas, I got to play around a lot more with it. And now instead of being set in a generic, fantasy small town, we all know what they look like. They all look the same. It is now set in a trailer park, a modern trailer park. And it's a lot of fun, taking the powers that are available in Sagas and putting the twist on them that they're paranormal. Like, that's the flavor that this adventure exudes. And, there's the paranormal investigator and a guy who's just going home to his see how his dad's doing in the trailer park, and turns out, oops, he's part of a cult or something like that.
That's usually
and
happens.
I think, yeah, especially with cosmic horror being involved.
Or just trailer parks.
But
continue.
So it's exactly like that connection right there is exactly why I wanted to set it in a trailer park, and it worked so well, and I'm 100% keeping it for when we actually publish that adventure.
David and I have a thing about Waffle House and adventures set in the Waffle House. But yes, Chad is very excited. BioShock Cyberpunk, question mark.
Essentially.
I absolutely love cosmic horror. This is right up my alley. I am so excited. It has been announced, so I can talk about it. Like, next month I'm getting to play in Emerald Templars with
Oh,
yeah.
I love D'Angelo. D'Angelo is actually
amazing?
one of the one of the stretch goals. I don't know if we'll actually make it to the stretch goals, but one of the first big stretch goals for this is D'Angelo writes a supplement for Sagas.
D'Angelo was one of our first guests on this talk show. And I've gotten to do a couple Emerald Templar one shots, and I'm going to get to do a 3-shot with D. So I'm very excited. I love cosmic horror. Someday I'll get to play. Y'all, I built a Starfinder character who's a little leopard gecko kobold, who's an evolutionist and slowly turning into an eldritch horror. And the game I built him for fell apart. And someday I'll get to play my weird little guy who licks his eyes and just grows tentacles. And I can't wait. But also I wanted to talk about, we spent a lot of time working on talking about collaborations and working with other players, but also artists. And we've had this conversation with a couple different people, but nothing is better than just letting an artist do their thing. And I love that you super leaned into it, because we've been talking about there's stuff that David and I are working on. And yes, there are certain NPCs where we're we need them to look this way for plot reasons, right? I have in the God Plane, we have a dream magic barbarian, and she's muscled and covered in tattoos. And it's important that she looks like a thin barbarian. She can't be the huge bulky one. It's important she has these tattoos for plot reasons. But also one of our goals is to be able to just go hey, we need a scene that involves this kind of thing. Go. And then the fact that you took that and turned around and wrote a whole campaign around it, that is, some of y'all know I'm a big Vampire Hunter D fan. And the original Vampire Hunter D did not have the cape. There was no cape, there was no cloak. And Kikuchi-sama was working with Amino, and Amino drew the big flowing cape, and Kikuchi's well, that's it. Gotta have the cape.
Yep.
Visuals win. Can't not have the cape.
And that's how Saga's art really started. Is so one thing that Rook Zero does is 2 times a week, usually, he goes live on stream and does line drawings for characters that he suggests, and he keeps those. So he has this enormous backlog of unfinished, drawings, and that's where I took Aquaborg from, and that's where I took most of the art for Sagas from. And all of the, pretty much everything that is going to be in there is going to be based on his pieces. Everything that is specific enough to say this is a character. It's not very often, because Sagas has to be vague so it can fit into different worlds.
Right.
But he will be I love giving artists their freedom to do their thing. And because that is when, the magic happens. It's when you get to let the artist be an artist instead of trying to match their style to what you want. I always love like watching an artist do what they do, and in this case, I get to reap the rewards from it. Amazing.
So by trade, I'm a writer and editor, and I specialize in like helping people bring their creative vision to life when it comes to like fiction, and also like I've done a lot of writing for myself and for others. And two things: one, a piece of advice that I would give to everyone, and I know it's not accessible for everyone, but if you can do it, find a museum and go to it. It doesn't have to be a good museum. It doesn't have to be like paintings on a wall. Find a museum and go to it, because, or go to the library and grab picture books. Doesn't matter what era, because, like, as much as words are an integral part of like the human experience, so is like vision, like the images we see. And
Yep.
I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to where they're like, oh, well, the whole concept for this book or this series of books or this comic book series that I'm working on or this book of poetry that I'm working on is this picture. And then they send me like just one thing, and it could be like this really old Japanese photo or Japanese painting from like the 1600s. One client of mine sent me a picture of a statue, and they're like, listen, the picture doesn't do it justice. You have to go and like sit it. And I'm like, I get it. But my first foray into storytelling, like into how I built stories, was there was a picture of a scene. There was like one core central thing. And I didn't know at the time, but later on I figured out that there was a Chekhov's gun in the room that was going to go off. But there was this one thing, and then what happened before and what happened after is how the story grew. And so do not underestimate, well, for one, do not underestimate artists, because artists are just as creative as you, and have a whole story that they want to tell with their, whether it's a picture or a sculpt, whatever medium, whatever visual medium they have. One, and two, like the directions you will go off of something that an artist gives you. And like viewers, if you are curious about this, go and look up interviews with like major comic book writers. Like go look up interviews with like Jim Lee or John Romita Jr. Like they will tell you that they, as artists, they're like, okay, well, I started drawing this thing, and then my partner did this whole arc based off of this one thing, or they were doing this whole thing and then I started drawing it off, and then the writer went, oh, this is completely wrong, because look at this. Like Kay said earlier, it's like, well, the cloak is here. It's like, oh, this changes it. Just throw all this away, and then like we're doing this now. And I'm really glad to hear that, like, that a lot of your inspiration came from the art, because like, in a lot of cases for like people who build a module or something, like they'll do the whole thing and then they'll be like, I guess I should like throw some art in on it. Yeah, just having that be integrated into the genesis of it, I think, is really important as well.
It really changes everything when art is your starting point. It's just, what's one thing I always tell my players way too late when we're starting a campaign is like, so to start your character, I would suggest picking a piece of art. My initial reasoning for this was so that you don't have to go find art of your character later and say, close enough, and you'll have one that is your character. But this experience that you've been describing is how I discovered that, where art is just so central to storytelling if you let it.
I love the cover for Sagas. So one of the first games I played in, my friend Stephanie still runs it, but it's an offline, just for fun Ravnica game, and I play a very weird plant person. It's 5e, so they're not even a Leshy. My GM is a fool and allowed me to homebrew a vegetation genasi, and has been asleep for like 2,000 years, woke up with Ravnica around them, and they're basically were a while partnered with another character in the game to just help them. Who was a celiac, the ones that graft stuff onto themselves, who was a lizard person, who was like basically Rango. Like he's like, I want to play Rango in D&D, and so when I saw the cover, I'm like, it's them. That's Wynn's friend.
I love that. And that's one thing I really, really want to do with Sagas at some point, is set it in a Magic the Gathering world and base it on the art on those gorgeous pieces of cardboard crack.
Mm-hmm.
What I did not know about Magic the Gathering is that the art that goes on the cards is a crop. Is like there's like a big picture, and then they're like, beep, and I'm like,
this one.
Are you? And like, I'm not one of those people who's like been into Magic the Gathering this whole time, because apparently it's been around since like the 90s, and there's like decades and like a gajillion cards. I only recently started like even kind of like looking at it, because I always thought, this costs money. I don't have money for things. You mean I need $2,000 to have a competitive deck? Get out of here. But yeah, like the biggest draw I've seen, like you go into a game shop and you're looking around, and like I immediately go to the dice, or like I go to like the fridge magnets. But the art on the Magic the Gathering stuff is really incredible, and really provocative.
For those of you who don't know, I used to work for DeviantArt. I was the lead community manager and moderator for 15 years. And at one point, we sponsored San Diego Comic-Con's Artist Alley for many, many years. So I would go to San Diego Comic-Con, I would help work the booth, I would help take care of the artists, like that's what we did. And I was wandering through and went over to the Magic the Gathering booth. I don't remember why, but they saw that I had the DeviantArt shirt and the staff badge. They're like, DeviantArt, we love DeviantArt. We get all of our artists from DeviantArt. And like they learned my name was, my screen name is K-Damn Fear. And so I walked away with like 4 Magic the Gathering decks and several like holographic like Damn Fear vampire cards. They're just like, here, take all of this. And I'm like, thank you. Like my head was just spinning. They were just so excited. They're like, you're where we get our stuff from. So yes, those people were incredibly nice. I do not play Magic myself, but those cards, I sat on them for many, many years, and then I found someone obsessed with it and was like, here, I have not actually used these. Please take them and enjoy. So 25 hours left. What? Did I just give you palpitations? What ultimately, and I realize this is a big question, but also I like the broad questions so you can figure out what it means. What's ultimately your goal with releasing Sagas?
Goal with releasing Sagas?
Yeah, with writing, with building, like what ultimately is all of this for?
This is fun. That's what it's really for. is at the base, at its core, it's because I have enjoyed the process immensely. One of the things I realized shortly after graduating from college was that I need at all times in my life to be learning something new, to be developing a skill. And you know, I was in the same desk job 3 years out, and I said, you know what, I'm bored. There's nothing. I just like, you know, play, you know, some video games and, you know, whatever. So that's why I became a content creator, because I had to develop skills to do that. I had to learn things. I had to learn video editing. I had to learn audio design. I had to learn, you know, color grading. I had to learn so many different skills. And I've been doing that for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Wow. Jeez, almost 2 years.
Congrats.
But that I had developed all of these skills, and like I'm sitting in a good spot where I feel like I'm good at what I do. I mean, I can always develop them further, but I feel like I need something new to dig my teeth into, and that was publishing a game. One of the main ideas, the reason I'm doing this is so that I can learn how to publish a game, how to design it, all the work that needs to go into it. I even had fun, a little bit of fun. It's not as fun as the rest of it, but like learning how licensing works, that was entertaining to me. And like, it's wildly important. And so I was, you know, I always have that at the forefront of my mind. Like, this started out just because I wanted to learn new skills. And when I dove into how marketing works, which is the worst I've learned, it just sucks. But I must have done something right, because it exploded. Like, people were interested in this thing I was doing, and I was so happy and proud, and all of that, you know, support led to doing a Kickstarter for it. And that was a whole nother new set of skills that I had to learn. And so that is my personal reason for doing all of this, is as a learning process, figure out how it works. The idea behind Sagas itself is different. That's not a personal thing. I want Sagas to be accessible. I want it to be something that most people can, as close to everyone as I can get, can pick up and play a TTRPG. I made it easy, rules light, easy to learn. The final product itself is going to be, the PDF will be pay what you want. I am going to make sure that the interior design of it is as accessibility friendly as we can make it. I want this to apply to as many people as possible and be as broad as I can make it. This is a very dangerous thing for a game to try to do. It has killed many different projects over the years, and so far we are going strong. I want more people to play games and have fun, and that's what Sagas is trying to do.
Starless says, love accessibility as someone who is neurodivergent with a reading disability. Yes. Also, we have, I'm gonna see if David is up for this rant, see if I can hand off the baton. But we have talked several times about TTRPG designers. Please make your character creation fun. Yeah. Because if you can't get through the character creation, no one's gonna play.
Yeah. Why? This is why it only takes like 5 minutes to do a character, and it takes even less time to level up. We were in the middle of a game once, okay? You can see this happen live on Mistress Winter's Court's channel. We were playing in the Horizon Zero Dawn universe, which amazing game. It was so much fun to play. But someone was like, oh wait, we're supposed to be level 3? I'm level 1 right now. We'll talk about, we're not going to do this right now. We'll do it like a little bit in the break and maybe afterwards. And 5 minutes later, he's like, oh, I'm level 3 now. In his downtime, he had leveled up his character. And that is, I felt so proud that our game could do that, because character creation needs to be easy. It needs to be fun. It needs to be, it's the first thing that people are going to do with it. And if they don't like it, they won't play it. Exactly what you said.
There's an old school approach where it's like you show up to the session with a shoebox full of character sheets, like a shoebox, and you know, like circa 1989, the idea was the DM made you go through all of them because it just kept killing them. And again, like going back to like just the idea of like game design and your approach to it is, you know, Kay mentioned like reinventing the wheel. And hey, D'Angelo.
Hey. We were just discussing you. I guess
just
your
ears must have burned. Yeah. But like one of the sort of like reinventing the wheels where it's like every system has this problem is character creation. And I remember sitting at a table with Kay in person back before the Panini, where we spent 3 hours, and of like the like 5 people who were there, like 2 of them had played before. It was Pathfinder 1.
Pathfinder 1E. We didn't have online tools. We had the hardcover books and like a search engine.
Yeah, we had like, but like I had a laptop out. I downloaded 2 different apps on my phone that were character generators. And then we had like 2 copies, and it still took hours. And like even before this, I think it was like it's D&D 3.5, where the character creation was just a real bitch, where I built a entire session 0 game that we could play, where all you needed was D20, and it's D&D 5 now. It's D&D 5e rules, but all the attacks are magic missiles, so you don't have to roll to hit. You just roll damage. And then like you roll, and then you play a peasant, and so all your stats are 9, so you take a -1 in everything. You don't have to think about it. So that we could play this game while we made the character to play the game. Because there are multiple systems out there, and like as they say in chat too, like someone's like Shadowrun. And there's another system I played precisely one session of, where I spent more time making the character than I did playing the first session, and then we never played again. And it's like,
yeah, David's Pathfinder story. That was my first time playing a TTRPG. We were coming in at level 5. I had decided, against all better judgment, I didn't know better, to play a druid, and I didn't know what a cantrip was. And 2 hours into that character creation session, I still didn't know, and I was too afraid to ask.
Oh,
yeah, it was savage. It was
hurts,
and it was, and we were playing with really good friends, so none of us were like afraid to ask questions.
There was no judgment, but it was still
like we had snacks. It was really pleasant. Like, and it was like fun hanging out with our friends, but we spent that whole time not playing the game. And so just being able to go and like, you know, and you know, like we said, Kay and I are building a thing, and this is one of the things we talk about. It's like, how quickly can you get to the game part of the game? You know, there are those of us, like there are plenty of people where they have like tons of different rule books on their shelf, and they sit down and they read them like books. Like they read every word through the whole. But have you seen the feats list in Pathfinder 2e?
Oh.
It's not short. It's
overwhelming.
So much.
What's the website? I don't use books
Path
or
Builder
PDFs.
is great for building Pathfinder characters.
yeah, it's the online tools that are now available, thankfully. Oh, Rook's here too. My artist is here. Hey, Rook.
Oh! we were talking about how awesome your art is and how you inspired an entire adventure.
That's true. But like, I 100% agree. But there are people, like my old roommate, who still great friend. He's going to be at my wedding. He's in the wedding party. We still talk. He has a very different TTRPG playstyle than I do.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoys that. Like, his favorite part about TTRPGs is learning the rules. Every single week he's playing a new thing. And I can't. We don't, like, we do play together on occasion. I was in his 3.5 campaign. He was in several of my 5th edition ones. But he introduced me to this one game called Harn, where it is the crunchiest thing I've ever seen. In order to do 1 hit of damage, 5 to 6 rolls need to be made. It's insane. You need to roll to see if you hit. Your opponent needs to roll depending on whether they're going to defend, attack again, or counterstrike. You need to roll if you do manage to hit, you need to roll to see where you hit. Then you need to roll to see how much damage you do. Then you need to roll to see what kind of wound you apply. It's insane.
I assume that this is like a PDF, like this is something that you find online, because I need you to download the PDF onto a flash drive, go to Kinko's, pay them to print it out, every single page of it, just so you could take it and throw it into a garbage can. No, thank you. Absolutely not. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
I traditionally, and again, I realized it's gonna be a while to figure it out. For a while, I felt like I didn't really like rules light systems. I think I'm just not super big on Powered by the Apocalypse in particular, but a lot of rules light systems are so light that I feel like I'm playing a video game with floaty controls. And I don't quite know how or where I fit into the world. And so I'm in a weird space of everyone's like, oh, you should love Powered by the Apocalypse. You should love rules light narrative systems. And I'm like, I kind of need to know where the boundaries are. And so I'm like, I like all of, like, I've played a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse systems, and I will continue to play them, but like, there is something to me that's very comforting and fun about 5e and Pathfinder 2e and those things. So I'm like, here are the rules. I can play very well within these rules, and if I'm asking to bend a rule, if I'm getting cheeky with it, I am aware. But there's also something really fun of like, hey, GM, can I just do this? And GM's like,
yes, and.
And problem is, again, I try to put a limit on how many times I do that, because David knows I will break a GM's brain.
Yep.
It has happened.
Like the number of times that I've been running a 5th edition game and a player has asked me, can I throw a person at the enemy to do damage? I can't count. Like, it is such a classic move. Every barbarian wants to do it at some point. And I have to say yes, because it's awesome. It's cool. But there's no rules for it. Like, there is no way to, there probably is at this point a way to put that into the game.
It doesn't fit, like, if you could do, an improvised weapon. Yep.
Yeah, but then does the person being thrown also take the damage?
Yeah. If someone gets thrown, like we just played, one of my characters just got swallowed by a T-Rex and then spat up and then was picked up and thrown, and I took fall damage when I hit. Yeah. So if I did that into someone, yeah, we'd both take it.
And so here's something that's I found very interesting playing Baldur's Gate, is that so many of like the very common rule changes and homebrew things and sort of like massaged things that Kay and I have done, that lots of people we know have done, Baldur's Gate was like, yeah, it's a D&D game, but as written, we're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
They have the Mercer rule for potions, which
Potions are bonus action.
makes perfect sense because a potion is 2 ounces.
But we did go through this whole thing, and technically healing potions are a magic item, and it takes an action to activate a magic item. So the rule of why drinking a potion is an action, not a bonus action, is because you have to activate the magic item. Also, especially for bigger parties, it's more fun to do as a bonus action, so you can use your action to do cool stuff.
Right. But they have a whole thing with barbarians where you click on the person, you pick them up, and you huck them. And so like this very discussion that we're having about like there's no set of like D&D rules for Larian Studios was like, hey Wizards, we need to put this thing in the game, what are we gonna do? And they're like, we don't know. And so they figured it out, and now that's in the game. And it goes to show like Kay and I do a what's it called, a charity game every year in December, and in most of the charity games we've done, we've had to specifically build out a brand new mechanic because what we wanted to do was not in 5e. And I mean, and that's the, and you know, we have a whole episode about like the advantages of other systems besides 5e, but like your approach again highlights the not problems of D&D, but the importance of different approaches of D&D or different approaches of tabletop, because you need to have different systems for different things, and no one system can do. Perfect example. So the thing that I just said to go to Kinko's, print it out, and throw it away. If you did capital ship battle in space, or if you did like big pirate ships, like in oceans, I could totally see how that would be a system that you would use to do like ship to ship combat in space, like specifically for that thing. And so it's like, well, do your lasers do a thing? Do the shields do a thing? If the shields don't do a thing, what kind of armor? Like all these different like layers of like attacks and defenses make sense with something like that.
Even Starfinder threw that out though.
Right. And so like
I could fun.
But I mean, like I could see the argument for it, and I could see how that could make like, you know, how that could impart upon the players the scale and the gravity of like ship to ship combat, and how that's different than like two fighter jets going at each other, or 2 people punching each other in a tavern. Like I could see all that. And so like with your approach to design, like yeah, you intuitively hit on so many of the problems that so many people have, and then rolled out a system that fixed them.
The gravity of the situation. All right. We are winding down our time here. Chat, if you have any last questions for Dennis about Sagas or the Kickstarter, etc., please, if you have the funds, go back it, because I really want to play in this system. So please go check it out. There are 24, 25-ish hours left. Dennis, do you have any final closing thoughts for us about Sagas, about anything else?
Honestly, talking with you two has been fantastic. I love all the threads that our conversation has gone, and I just want to continue doing it. So, on David's point, It's the question. It's the difference between like whether you're going to learn a new rule system that does what you want to do very, very well, or if you're going to stretch the rule system you know so it can do it okay. And I very much think that there are things that Sagas doesn't do as well as other systems. That's always going to be the case with any TTRPG. Like Lancer. Sagas doesn't do mechs that well yet. We're still working on those rules. It's going to be like two little paragraphs of thing that's going to, make mechs available. Lancer is a game designed around mechs, and it's literally the thing you need to learn if you want to do just mechs. You don't want to use, it depends on what you want to do. If you're not going to use D&D to run a game that is a hospital drama, that's just not going to work. Like, you could, in theory, homebrew all the rules, make some new classes where you've got doctor and secretary and and patient, whatever. You could, in theory, do it. It could work. But it is much easier to just take a system that can do that. I was designed around that. I use hospital drama specifically because we actually did that in Sagas. And I designed it so that it was easier to stretch to fill those holes that you want filled, to be able to tell the stories that you want to tell. In the same game, this was over on the channel Roll D5, we went, we were in combat, and the monster they were fighting switched them between worlds every single round. And we went from a solar punk academia to a hospital drama to a slasher steampunk horror in 3 consecutive rounds. And the combat was constantly being reflavored. They went from, I'm going to stab this eldritch horror with my dagger, to I am going to talk to this eldritch horror and remind him of his father. And they did damage that way. And it was so much fun.
That probably crit.
That is incredible.
And the mechanics stayed the same. We just got to throw whatever flavor we wanted onto it. And it was, it's just so rewarding to watch my little baby grow up and be able to do all these things.
And that's really cool too, because David and I, we run a lot of charity games. We run a lot of short campaigns. And we're really fortunate that we've had some bigger names come and play with us. And we usually run our games in D&D 5e, not because it's our all-time favorite system, but because it's what most tabletop performers know. And if you're, hey, we've got 3 hours to tell a story and raise money for charity, we don't want to spend forever talking about the mechanics. And so it's just easier to run it in that. And it's great if there's another system that's like, this is Sagas, 15 minutes to know, you can level up. Like, if someone does something really, really cool in the middle of a charity game, or if we have jump everyone up 5 levels as a donation rewards and people can do that on the fly, that would be incredible. I want that, because I'm not letting people level up in D&D in the middle of a game, because that's gonna destroy the pace of the game.
Yeah. Oh,
this is making my gears spin.
And
I want to do this.
And also, like, one of like the sort of like hurdles of one of the things that adds to the pre-production of our charity games is we have to contact them and be like, okay, have you made your character? Please give us the character sheet. And
you have your magic items picked out.
Mm-hmm.
And like, Kay and I both have talked to our people who've played with us, and they've been like, listen, I'm really low on energy and I've had like a long shitty week and I'm not really, and I will bring the fire for the game for like the 3 hours you need me there, but at 3 hours and 1 minute, like no. And we generally green room half an hour before a show starts, and to have a system where it's like, listen, I know you don't got spoons the rest of the week, but get in here half an hour before, and while we're setting up tech, you can roll your character and get a gist of the rules and get everything ready to go, and then boom, we're like, that would not only make it easier for a lot of our players, but it would also make it so that we could run stuff like that more often because there's less prep that we have to do.
Yeah. We had someone, no tea, no shade, like it was not a problem. We had someone come in half an hour before we were going live saying, I cannot do the voice. I'm sick. I cannot do the voice for the character I was going to do tonight. I'm so sorry. I need to change characters. And we're like, cool, that's fine. But if that was no concern at all, because, well, Sagas, go.
Right. And like, it wasn't a big deal. And, you know, they got us a new character sheet. But while we were like setting up, I was also like digging through the fights going, okay, I had this set up for this based off of, because like, you know, you want to give your players something cool to do. Like, you know, you got a paladin that has turn undead. You want to put a skelly there. And but like, you know, it was and so there's a lot of appeal to Sagas, and there's a lot of appeal to this approach, both for like the, hey, I want to run this at a convention, hey, I want to run this at home, but also like on the professional side of things of, hey, I want to run this for a stream. And you've run it in a lot of places.
Yes, I have run upwards of 40 games of Sagas now, maybe 50. I haven't counted. But I'm very selfish because I designed Sagas to be the perfect game for me to run. It fits my GM style perfectly. I am very, very story-oriented. I don't like getting bogged down in the rules, and so the game I design is going to apply to both of those. And I am also at the point in my content creating career where pretty much every game I run is streamed now or recorded for content. And Sagas applies to that as well. Like, it's so easy to put together. And like, Tav in chat has, he just finished up his Sagas, miniseries. And like, everyone that has come back to me and given me an opinion on how easy it is to run on stream says exactly that. It's like super easy. Like, the players learned it super quickly. We didn't have to worry about like a super long session 0 to get the basics of the rules down. They all came to me with their characters before I even asked them to, because it was that simple. And like, just, it's checking all these boxes for me. So like, there's one thing that breaks my heart about it, and that is that I have this infinitely long list of other games that I need to play, and I don't want to. I just want to keep playing Sagas because it does all the things that those games do. So like, why would I play those when I could just hold this one that does everything? You know, I'm going to play those games. I need to check those off of my bucket list, but I think if Sagas continues on the path that it's in, it's going to go towards that area, and I'm just going to keep doing that over and over and over again for the content.
And again, circling back to, part of the character creation being having flaws, having things you hold back. Yes. That not only gives players something to go off of, because I'm going to admit, I generally don't have this problem. I'm the person, like I said, I've got a character fully formed in my brain. It's already an independent voice yelling at me, and I'm like, well, great, now you live here too. Go sit with everyone else. But also as a GM, like, we talk about, I believe I heard it was something from a Reddit post, but I believe I heard it on No Quest for the Wicked. They're talking about the GM asked everyone come to me with 3 knives. And by 3 knives for your character, I don't mean knives in their hands. I mean knives in their back. Just something that I can twist and I will get your character's attention. Isn't that a
Yes, I
beautiful?
love that. I love that. Give the storyteller the tools they need to tell their story,
Because
and something to make characters hurt and develop is essential to good stories.
that's what I love. Brennan Lee Mulligan. Brennan Lee Mulligan is one of the GMs I most want to be like, and he has a whole thing about I will build the coolest NPC and I'll put them in the tavern, and the party will go like, "Cool, what's this other guy doing?" And I will be frustrated, and I don't want to have to do that. I'm a lazy GM, so I want to put in the tavern, "Oh, the uncle that betrayed your whole family and is the reason everyone's dead. The uncle's sitting there. I know you'll react to that.
Mm-hmm. It's
Go
true.
deal with the uncle."
Oh, you recognize this person. He has your eyes. What?
Mhm. And with that, I think we are ending our time here. I know you have you're going to have a very high energy 24 hours.
Yes.
Yes.
We will let you
Yes, I am.
run away and sit in. I mean, if it were me, I'd just be sitting in my anxiety. But
No, it's okay. It's okay. I literally have therapy right after this.
woof, that was either great planning or very unfortunate timing.
It's perfect. It's exactly how I set it up to be.
So we will bring this to an end. Chat, any final questions? Now's the time to get them out. Dennis, again, tell us who you are, where we can find you, and what the heck is Sagas, and why everyone who should go back it right now.
Hi, I'm Dennis. I run the OkayestDM YouTube channel where I make mistakes running games so you don't have to. I have been a content creator for TTRPGs for going on 2 years-ish now, and most recently, all of my energy has been devoted to SAGAS. SAGAS is an acronym for Setting and Genre Agnostic System. We've been talking about it for the past 2-ish hours, and I want to keep talking about it for another 2, but I respect your time.
And David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I am your resident person who didn't get to all the questions that he had, which is a good sign because we were talking about so many other things that I didn't get to all the questions. But this is the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff. How to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And I'm Kay. I've been here too. You could find David and I Thursday and Friday this week playing Baldur's Gate 3. Please again come by on Saturday for Body and Soul, which is going to be, I have no part in it. It is an all-black cast, all-black written, all-black crew, playing through an incredible story of the old gods in various times in America. So there's kind of a pinch of American gods in there, but I'm told that's only like 30%. Again, I'm not involved in this. I don't really know. I'm really excited to come along with this. Candace the Magnificent, who's in chat, will be in it, and I know you're not going to want to miss it. So thank you all for coming by. Thank you for being awesome. Go back Sagas if you can. And who are we rating, David?
Jade Valkyrie.
We're going to go say hi to Jade Valkyrie, playing Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story, which looks so cute. Thank you all again. Thank you so much, Dennis, for spending your time with us. And we will see y'all next time.